Really lovely to be here today. So, as Sarah said, I'm producing beef with my husband in South Gippsland, beef and sheep, and I'm really proud of what we do. We've had an amazing life, and we really do care for our animals. We've cared for our land and our people. We have supported three different families on our farm, and we've been really profitable. We feed about 10,700 people a year with the kilograms of beef and lamb that we turn off. But it's interesting, as a producer, and I feel like a lot of producers, I feel a bit under threat at the moment. When we look at what's happening in the media and we look at what's coming in, I'm proud of what I'm doing, but I feel like red meat's like the new coal. The coal industry has been under attack for many years around carbon emissions, and when I look at the media that's coming in the news almost every day, the Amazon's burning because we're eating too much meat. They're claiming what's happening in New South Wales and Queensland with clearing is enormous. London colleges are banning meat because of climate change. It's really quite horrifying. So environmentally we're being challenged. We've also got the vegan activists that are very active at the moment. And this thing's not working. Where do I need to point it to? To that one. So the vegan activists that are going around, they stepped over the mark when they went into Melbourne because they pissed off the whole community as well when nobody could get around. I don't know if you follow Batuta Advocate, but it's the most fantastic satire, and they've talked about the vegan activists losing momentum because they started napping because of iron deficiency. So, but they're concerned, and I know with some of the Animals Australia and the vegans, they don't want any use of animals, but this concern of welfare, the welfare of our animals is important. And some of the research that MLA has been doing is showing us, for the people that are going vegetarian, and I guess all of you would know some youngster who is, because they are concerned about our footprint, they are concerned about what's happening, and they're choosing environmentally to go that way, and they are also significantly concerned about the welfare. But for us as farmers, we've also got the problem that with climate change, which they say we're causing, we actually, because we're on the front line, we're seeing the impact. So whether it's drought, or in Australia where we've got the most variable climate in the world already, before climate change, we now are living 1 degree and we're seeing more frequency. And as farmers, we're living with it. We have to deal with these challenges, with this variable climate, variable rainfall, high temperatures, and the worst case scenario, of course, is the fires and floods. So we have to deal with it. We are on the front line with this. And it is actually very, very challenging because we want to look after, again, we want to look after the land, we want to look after the animals, we want to look after the people, and this is very, very challenging. So I guess as a footprint, we look after 54% of Australia's land. Now, if we get it wrong, if we don't make good decisions, and because of this variable climate, we need to make good decisions, we can stuff up. And I guess we've all seen examples of that. And it's really important we don't, because when we do, the papers get hold of it, and we will get it. But also there's significant opportunities, and we're part of the solution. And this is where we're so passionate for people to hear about the work that's happening with good management with livestock. We're actually improving the land. We're actually getting things recycling. We're improving the soil, perennial pasture systems, and getting legumes into the regions are actually improving the soil. We're improving the carbon. We're reducing emissions. So there's enormous opportunities, but we need to manage, and we need to manage well. When we talk to people, and at the last Red Meat Forum last year, and we said, where are the biggest opportunity? Transparency. There are so many half-truths out there, and the stuff I read on social media, and I've got to stop reading it, I think, that gets me upset, but there's a lot of bullshit, basically. And I don't know where they're getting the figures from or whether it's from another country, but I actually just don't think it's real. We need the proper facts, and we need to be honest about what's happening. And when we do stuff up, if we don't make the decisions right, we need to learn from it and deal with it. It's really important that we don't pretend everything's okay. We've got to be proactive, we've got to make good decisions. And we heard from the earlier speakers how important transparency is. So this framework that's been developed, and if you haven't grabbed a copy, they're out in the CN30 stand, get one or download it, is our way of trying to say, well, what is actually happening? It's a way of let's get the proper facts. Let's not have these half-truths. What is really happening? And let's have it based by science. So we've got a steering group, and they're an amazing group. Love my meetings. So we've got producers from north and south. We've got the processing sectors. We've got leaders that are trying to drive change across the whole supply chain, and you'll recognise a few of them from your sectors. And what we've tried to do is to say, okay, first of all, what is sustainability to us? And then we've actually said, well, what are the things that will indicate, how we're tracking in these areas and we've been talking to a lot of stakeholders to do that. We actually have a consultative forum twice a year, and we, of course, have the normal ones that are inside the industry, but we also get the ones that are challenging us, whether it's WWF, Wilderness Society, RSPCA. They're the ones that are globally trying to look at what the impact is and challenging us. So we're talking to them and saying, well, what are your concerns? How do we report on it and prove whether what you're saying is true or not? And then let's see where we go from there. So what I wanted, there's a bit of information here, but if you get this document, you can look in more detail. But basically, we're reporting on animal welfare, and there's a number of factors there, but it's around animal well-being and animal health. And one of the areas we've really focused on is the animal husbandry. And consumers are concerned about bloody operations and pain relief. Fortunately, in the beef industry, about 3 years ago, we've actually got some products that we can use. When we reported in the first year, there was only 4% using it. It's only just come out. There's 15% using it now, and there's actually quite a lot of research about how effective and the delivery mechanisms. So there's some action happening there. The other thing we're doing is we're breeding pole gene into the animals so we don't have to dehorn them. We're looking at using science to advance this. Economic resilience, as we heard before, profitability is a critical part of it. And it's a challenge for us in Australia because we actually pay a decent wage and we've got high standards. For our processing sector, we've got about 3 times the cost of some of our competitors. But we need to report on that, and that's why we need to be a value-add country, and that's what we're doing globally. Environmental stewardship, and the two things that are really coming at us is zero deforestation is a buzzword globally. WWF is very concerned about what's happening in our planet with our forests, and they're concerned about that. So last year, we did a pasture and tree cover using satellite maps from CSIRO, so we could prove that a lot of the things that they're saying we're doing is not true. We've got global maps from 30 years ago. We can show that we're not clearing primary forests to the level that they are. There's a lot of misperception, so there's some great information here. And the people in the community is really important, that we look after the people, that we've got diversity, and one of the big concerns we have is the deaths that are happening on farm, and we actually need to manage those. So the framework can be used where there's gaps to actually invest in research and development so that we can answer the questions. It can be really valuable in getting money into our industries. And it's interesting, the ethical investors have advised not to invest in red meat because they're concerned about sustainability. We need to prove that actually it's a good investment. So it's a real concern to me if we can't get money for our businesses to grow them, if they're concerned about what we're doing. We need to foster relationships, and those people are giving us a hard time. If they're reasonable people, we need to work with them, and that's what this consultative framework's doing. And we had a really fantastic example last year. WWF launched an Earth Burger in Japan, and their message was, don't buy any meat from Brazil or Australia because of the deforestation. And because of the relationship that Tess and Pip have with WWF and the work they're doing with us, they came in and really changed that and never got into the papers because they were embarrassed because they knew we are actually having a crack and tackling it. So those relationships are really important if we're going to proceed and get that trust, build that trust, that we actually have conversations. The other thing is promoting our industry, and I know MLA with the marketing team really value this document, and they're using it, that when they go globally, this is what we're doing. And I've actually had some of the Japanese team that are going to be responsible for marketing our Olympics come out to our farm to see what sustainability means. And they wanted to see the riparian areas fenced off. What does it mean? So they're really interested in what's happening and what we're saying. So there's a summary table, and I love this. And this, for me, every farmer should know these facts so that when we're challenged or when someone's coming up with those half-truths, as far as climate change, we've reduced emissions by 56% since the Paris Agreement, since 1990. We're the industry that's leading the way. 9% of that's been improvements in animal production, whether it's feed conversion, efficiency or diet, But a lot of it's about land use change, whether it's getting legumes into the pastures or improving the soil and the perennials. So there's been significant change that's happened through there, and a great summary document that I think is worth looking at. So I saw this come up on social media. So the city folks say we're ruining the planet. You look at their footprint. But for me, this document gives me the facts so that I can say, let me show you what we're doing to improve the planet, because I really do feel we're part of the solution. I was really thrilled to see that nutritional recommendations say, hey, it's okay to eat eggs and full cream milk again. I think red meat, the natural, unprocessed foods, that's what we're supposed to be eating. We can do it productively and sustainably. As a country, we are efficient, we are resilient. We're going to continue to do that, but this is really important for us communicating that. Thank you.